Welcome back, everybody, and happy Oscars Eve to those who celebrate. I have, within the last couple days, have just finished my goal of the year of watching every single film that and short that was nominated for an Academy Award, and so I want to, the day before, kind of last minute, get my final predictions out there. And even this, I don't know if this is my final prediction. I think there's a lot of categories that are still kind of up in the air. So I might switch again by tomorrow, but as of right now, I think these are my final predictions in every category. So I just wanted to run through every category real quick and give kind of some general thoughts about the category, maybe who I would pick if I had a vote in that category, what I think maybe a runner-up is, and then ultimately, who ends up winning the category. Apologize, there's not going to be any cool editing or graphics on the screen. This is very last minute. We're just gonna try and run through this and get this out there. So we'll start with the live-action short category. I kind of have a lot of it memorized, but I don't want to go off the top of my head and get something wrong, so I will be looking down when I read off the the nominees. So, live action short category, the nominees are An Irish Goodbye, Ivalu, Li Pupile, Night Ride, and The Red Suitcase. Now, I think this category is kind of interesting, where I think you can kind of split it up into two different categories of contenders, if you will. First off, just Night Ride and Ivalu. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't see it happening for those films. So we're going to take those other three and we're going to split them into two categories. Category one being the Disney-backed, produced by Alfonso Cuarón category. And that one is Li Pupile. This one, I personally liked it. The film does a thing where it pretty much says there's no point necessarily to the script or to the story. There's no moral, no lesson at the end. It's just kind of this fun, quirky, coming of age type story. And so I liked it, but I kind of see where some other voters or other people that I've seen kind of talk about the films, why they don't necessarily like it. The other two fit in another category, The Red Suitcase and An Irish Goodbye, and I think that category is kind of just really good films. I really like both of those. I think there is kind of a litmus test of if an anime or a live action short can be made into a feature length film, then that's typically sometimes what the voters go for. While I do think The Red Suitcase works as a great contained story, I think in the grand scheme of it being a wide story, what you see in that short would just be a scene in the grand film, which would be a really good scene in that film. It would work. I do think An Irish Goodbye ultimately is... I think that subject matter could more easily be stretched into an entire film. And so, plus An Irish Goodbye is the only of the five films that is in the English language, which the English language factor sometimes does weigh in pretty heavily in these categories. So, ultimately, my prediction is An Irish Goodbye. My vote... I probably would also vote for An Irish Goodbye, and then I think the runner-up is Li Pupile. So then, if we go to Best Animated Short Film, the nominations in this category are The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, The Flying Sailor, Ice Merchants, My Year of Dicks, and An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake and I Think I Believe It. Now, in this category, I think there's kind of an interesting dynamic. I think The Flying Sailor it's a nice 7-minute short on the New Yorker. It's okay, it's worth a watch, but I don't think it quite holds up to the other four in the category. This category is unique for me because all three of the boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, Ice Merchants, and An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake and I Think I Believe It. I think I gave all three of those 4.5 stars on Letterboxd. I get that there is kind of a group of people that didn't enjoy the Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It is long and it is very cheesy and sappy. It kind of takes the route of, instead of learning life lessons along the way, it decides to just get to state 50 life lessons, and that's the dialogue. Instead of like learning things, it's just characters spouting things of "you are loved" and "don't give up on your dreams" and "home is where your friends are" and "honesty is never boring," things like that. It just kind of spouts dialogue at you, and I think that that's kind of a turnoff for some people. Ice Merchants, I believe, has won a lot of kind of the film festivals and kind of like competitions that it's been in. So I think Ice Merchants is maybe a sleeper in this category. My personal favorite is probably An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake, and I think I believe it. It's just very unique it's a stop motion animated film where us as the viewer, we're watching, let me make sure I'm getting his name right. Lachlan Pendragon is the writer, director, animator. We're watching like a monitor that the finished movie's playing on, but in the background you can see him doing the stop motion animation. And so I just thought it was a really kind of cool, unique, and the film has a nice little fun twist in there that I won't spoil, but I really liked that one. I don't know if it has much of a chance. So even though that's my favorite, I think ultimately I will default to The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse as my prediction. And I think the Ice Merchants, as the sleeper in the category, might kind of be the runner-up, or maybe My Year of Dicks might be the runner-up. So that is the animated short category. The documentary short category, the nominees are The Elephant Whisperers, Haul Out, How Do You Measure a Year, The Martha Mitchell Effect, and Stranger at the Gate. Now, this category, I didn't necessarily love a lot of the films in this category. A lot of them are, like, they're good and they're well made. There wasn't anything necessarily in this category that, like, gripped me. I know the one that I think is gripping the most people, or that the most people love, is The Elephant Whisperers, which is on Netflix. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think, that's up there for one of my favorites in the category, and I think ultimately it's going to be the runner-up. I do think I'm going to predict Stranger at the Gate. I think, personally, like that film as much. I do think the message is something that a lot of voters are going to think is important and are going to gravitate to when voting. So ultimately, I am going to predict Stranger at the Gate with The Elephant Whisperers as the runner-up. And if I had a vote in the category, honestly, I might vote, my preferred vote maybe would be Haul Out. That one was harrowing and was kind of a tough watch at times, but I do think it had a kind of at the end ultimately an important message. So that probably would have been my pick in the category. So then next up, we're going to do documentary feature film. The nominees are All That Breathes, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, Fire of Love, A House Made of Splinters, and Navalny. Now, this category is interesting in that All the Beauty and the Bloodshed was the presumed frontrunner and had been the frontrunner for the whole Oscar season, right? And it had won, I believe it was like over 20 different critics groups and previous competitions it was in. Navalny has only really won BAFTA and the PGA, and yet just with those two wins, kind of the two key precursor wins, it's kind of just swooped in and has become the frontrunner in the category and become the film to beat. So ultimately, I will be predicting Navalny, and then I think All the Beauty and the Bloodshed would be the runner-up in the category. If I had to pick a favorite, I would maybe say Navalny was my favorite, but I also really did like A House Made of Splinters, so I could that could also, and obviously All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. It's a really tough category. A lot of the documentaries I think are just kind of, they're all really well made. It's typically year in, year out, the documentary category is just full of heavy hitters. It's just a kind of the theme of that category. So next up, we're going to do animated feature film. The nominees are Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, The Sea Beast, and Turning Red. Now, this category is interesting in terms of because of how much I like the category and how much I like a lot of the films in the category. I genuinely think I enjoy all 5 of these films. It's not interesting in terms of who's going to win. It's going to be Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It has won everything, right? Like, it's won all the precursors. It's won all the critics groups. As soon as the decision was made to put Guillermo del Toro's in the title, I think at that point, just because of the love that the Academy and different awards bodies have for Guillermo, that love, I think it helps seal that win. Not to take anything away from the film, it's obviously incredible. My favorite in the category is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, but I also really love Puss in Boots. So both of those two, I think, are top 10 films of the year for me, or at least in that conversation. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is right behind. I do thoroughly enjoy that film as well, but just want to give a little shout out to those top 2. I think I like them a little more. So final prediction, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio for the win. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On would be my vote, and then Puss in Boots I do think is going to be like the runner-up in the category. There is the film is having this moment that I think will correlate in enough votes to maybe get a second place, but ultimately not anything to make it a contender in the category. So then, next up, we're going to do International Feature Film. The nominees in this category are All Quiet on the Western Front, Argentina 1985, Close, Yeoh, and The Quiet Girl. Now, the interesting thing about this category is there are 2 films that are up and away the most awarded international films of the year, and those are RRR and Decision to Leave, neither of which are nominated here. RRR because it wasn't submitted, Decision to Leave because the Academy didn't nominate it. That's on them. But those 2 are like up and away, like they've won the most critics groups, so it's interesting that they're not here. Ultimately, this is going to be the biggest and the easiest lock of the night. This is no doubt, no brainer. This is going to All Quiet on the Western Front. I don't remember the exact number. I looked this up a couple days ago. I think it's 8. I think there's 8 times in the history of the Oscars that a film has been nominated for Best International Film or Best Foreign Language Film back in the day, while also receiving a Best Picture nomination. And in that instance, when a film receives both of those nominations, 100% of the time, I think it's 8 for 8, that it wins International Feature. There used to kind of be I remember in the Parasite year, there was a lot of discussion about, because it's nominated for Best Picture, people are going to vote for it there, and then they're going to want to reward something else international. No, that's not how it works. That's not going to happen. International film is going to go to the film that has a Best Picture nomination. It's clearly, the Academy has pretty much told us already that is the film they're going to vote for. By getting, I think, All Quiet has 8 nominations, so it is already, solidified that is what's going to win International Film. In terms of, a runner-up in the category, I don't even know what you would consider the runner-up. I guess maybe Argentina 1985, but again, the runner-up in this category doesn't really matter all that much. It's not that important. My pick in the category also would be All Quiet on the Western Front. I really did. I liked it. I liked the film okay, I think, on a first watch, but on a second watch, I loved it a lot more. Although I also really did like Close as well, but my personal pick would be All Quiet on the Western Front. So next up, we're going to do Best Original Song, and the nominees here are Applause from Tell It Like a Woman, Hold My Hand from Top Gun Maverick, Lift Me Up from Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Naatu Naatu from RRR, and This Is a Life from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, this category is unique in that this maybe is the one category where I don't think any nominee is dead yet. I think they all have an interesting case to be made, or an interesting chance. We'll start with the bottom 2 that I don't really think have a chance, but it's Applause, which is Diane Warren's yearly nomination. The reason I'm just not ruling that dead yet is because in a category like this that is kind of a toss-up, maybe she just finally gets enough voters to finally say, okay, it's your time, Diane Warren, we're giving you the Oscar. The other film in kind of this I don't think so category is going to be This Is a Lie from Everything Everywhere All at Once. I really enjoy the song. I really like it. I think the only chance that this has is if this does turn out to be such a divisive category, and voters are just looking to over award Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a possibility. I won't lie, like I think that is a possibility. But I just don't think it's a strong possibility. So those are the two that maybe, but not really. The next category of two films is the interesting category of the pop stars doing songs. So then this is where you're going to have Hold My Hand, Lady Gaga from Top Gun Maverick. Personally, of the two, this is the one I prefer more. And then the other one is Lift Me Up from Rihanna for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. This one, again, like I said, I prefer Hold My Hand in terms of just like on a song-to-song basis, but I think in terms of when you're watching the film, when you're watching Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I think that that song works better. The emotional heft of the song is just, it's heavier when you're watching the film and the song comes on. So if there's a world where the voters have that in mind when they're voting for the song, then maybe. But I don't think that's the case, because I remember a couple years ago with Husavik from Eurovision Song Contest, that was the song that I think a lot of people were predicting that year because of the thing of, oh, if the voters watch the film, this is the song that's just like, it's used the best. It comes at the most pivotal moment of the plot, and clearly we kind of learned that. I think what a lot of people have already known is maybe in the song category, people are just listening to the songs and then voting. It's not necessarily they're watching the film to get to where that song is incorporated in the film. So I don't know how great of a chance I'm giving those two, which then I think leaves with the most popular, the one that's having the biggest kind of cultural moment, which is Naatu Naatu from RRR. Although I do acknowledge that does kind of just counter that argument I just said of they're not necessarily watching the film to get to, how the song is incorporated in the film, which Naatu Naatu is the one of these, 4 songs that is kind of more incorporated in the actual narrative of the story. I just think this is a category that that is going to be enough. It's a split enough race that I think enough people that have seen RRR and want to reward that this Oscar season, Naatu Naatu is their chance. The song is incredible. It's very good. I think that's ultimately going to be the winner, and what I would personally pick is Naatu Naatu. I do think the runner-up probably would be Hold My Hand by Lady Gaga, but I don't know how great of a chance, that has. So next I'm going to do the Best Original Score, and the nominees here are All Quiet on the Western Front, Babylon, The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and The Fabelmans. In this category, I think The Banshees of Inisherin is kind of the one that just has no chance. The Fabelmans has a chance because it's John Williams, and maybe if we want to give John Williams, I think it would be his 6th Oscar on his 53rd nomination, something like that. There is a chance there, I guess. Everything Everywhere All at Once has a chance in the sense of, again, if voters want to just over-award Everything Everywhere. I think the top 2 contenders here are Babylon and All Quiet on the Western Front. Personally, my vote would be for Babylon. I do think that is the best score, but I do acknowledge that it is such a out there, such a vibrant, hectic, like a just dialed up to a 11 score, and I think maybe some people don't like that as much, whereas like the All Quiet on the Western Front score is kind of more reserved. It's simple, has that haunting like that 3-note motif that it does in the score that I think just maybe that is something that the voters are thinking a little bit more of. And ultimately, this is one of the categories I think I might flip again by tomorrow, but currently I am predicting All Quiet on the Western Front, with Babylon being the runner-up and what would be my vote in the category. So next we're going to Best Sound. Let me find it. Here we go. So Best Sound, the nominees here are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Batman, Elvis, and Top Gun Maverick. Now, sound is I think is pretty much a lock for Top Gun Maverick. I think sometimes we fall into the trap of trying to think, how can we award every single Best Picture nominee? How can every single film make sure it gets one award? And I'm trying to not do that with my predictions, but this is kind of the category where they can award Top Gun Maverick. And I do think that the sound design is incredible in Top Gun Maverick. It's one of those films I remember from the past year of seeing it in theaters. Nothing tops that experience of obviously the visuals, but just the sound coming in from the speakers was just such a really cool moment. And I do think that is something that the Academy will want to honor, and it is I think maybe the one and only spot that you can really not award Top Gun Maverick here. So that will be my pick. As far as the runner-up goes, I think maybe it's Elvis or maybe All Quiet. One of those two I think is going to be the runner-up in the category, but I do think that Top Gun Maverick has won enough of the critics groups and precursors to kind of distance itself, so there ultimately isn't that much of a runner-up. Next up, I'm going to do makeup and hairstyling, and the nominees here are All Quiet on the Western Front, The Batman, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Elvis, and The Whale. Now, this category, for the longest time, I had been kind of just saying whoever I was going to pick for Best Actor, that's where I was going with this category. And I think I've slightly kind of changed that stance a little bit. I still do put some weight into it. Because so pretty much this is between The Whale and Elvis for me, while I do think Colin Farrell's entire makeup and prosthetic work in The Batman is incredible, and the makeup and All Quiet, the mud and the dirt and the blood and all that I think is impressive. But ultimately, between The Whale and Elvis, I think you have The Whale, where there is prosthetic work, then you have, which is amazing. Then you have Elvis, which has a lot of prosthetic work with Tom Hanks' character, as well as the kind of the facial fillers that they're putting into Austin Butler to make Elvis look like Elvis throughout the years. A lot of different things that they were doing to his face. Ultimately, I think I'm going to go with Elvis in this category. I think also because part of the category is makeup and hairstyling. There is a lot of cool period accurate hair that is done in that work. There's just so many more characters that get to have makeup and hair done on them, as opposed to The Whale, where it is just the main selling point is just the prosthetic work of Brendan Fraser. So yeah, I'm gonna say Elvis is my pick. It's my prediction, and it's probably what I would vote for, with The Whale being the runner-up in the category. So next up, we're gonna go to costume design. Nominees here are Babylon, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Miss Harris Goes to Paris. This category, I think, is kind of a two-way race right now between Black Panther Wakanda Forever and Elvis. In this, Black Panther has won the Critics' Choice, and then Elvis has won the BAFTA. Ultimately, either way, whoever you're picking a previous Oscar winner. I was leaning toward Ruthie Carter's work for Black Panther for the longest time, but I think I have switched to Catherine Martin, her work in Elvis. So that is going to be my pick, or my prediction. My pick in the category, I probably, if I had to vote, I would vote for Black Panther. I do think there's just the funeral scenes, and then just all of the different, the different groups of people that they're bringing in to the film. They all have different and unique costume design, and ultimately this is also a category where you have to decide if you're going to favor Ruthie Carter's work, where it's a lot of kind of imagination, and I guess maybe some of it is kind of adapted from the comics, but I think a lot of it is just kind of what they decided to do, as opposed to Catherine Martin's work, which is more, they had pictures and they had a real person and his real fashion to base the costumes on. Ultimately, I just think the category is going to go to Elvis, with Black Panther as the runner-up here in the category. Next, we're going to go to visual effects, and the nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Batman, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and Top Gun Maverick. Now, I think, like I said, international film is the biggest lock of the night. I think this is the second biggest lock of the night for Avatar: The Way of Water. I don't think there's any way that you can watch that film and not just be floored and be amazed by the visual spectacle of it. I mean, the second hour of the film is solely just kind of a kick back, enjoy the beauty of this, of the water tribes, I mean, of the water and of the land, and also one of the important things to remember with visual effects is, which I guess also kind of goes hand in hand with the production design of the film, but the Pandora isn't a real place, and so everything you see in the film, the it's all visual effects work that, you know, is being done to create the world, as well as, of course, the visual effects of all of the characters, just capturing everything, their movements, their facial expressions, their emotions, everything being captured via mocap. Just, it's amazing work. There's no way that this is the second biggest lock of the night. Avatar: The Way of Water. It's my prediction. It would be my vote. As far as a runner-up goes, man, I don't know. Top Gun: Maverick, maybe. There's no clear runner-up. It's the biggest lock. Or second, I guess, to international film. So next we're gonna do production design. The nominees here are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, Babylon, Elvis, and The Fabelmans. And I think in this category, I'm just gonna stick with the film that's been winning everything, which is Babylon. It also has the advantage of being the production design is old Hollywood, and that is something that the Academy loves to over and over again award in this category. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and I'm trying to blank on what I was going to say on the other one, and Mank. So back-to-back years, you know, kind of those, maybe that's not back-to-back, but 2 out of 3 years, you know, that they tend, that's what they tend to go for, is they tend to award old Hollywood, people that can create those sets, and that's what Babylon is. There's multiple scenes, multiple sets, all looks really good, and I just ultimately, I think that's what they're going to go for, so that's my prediction. It's also would probably be my vote. Maybe my vote would be Avatar, like I was saying. Everything you see, all of Pandora, that is great production design. So, but yeah, ultimately, I think this is going to go to Babylon. And runner-up in the category, I guess, probably would be... Actually, maybe the runner-up would be All Quiet, because they did have to dig out those trenches and create those bunkers, which was an incredible feat of production design, so maybe that would be the runner-up. But all right, next up, we're going to go to cinematography. And the nominees here are All Quiet on the Western Front, Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths, Elvis, Empire of Light, and Tar. This is kind of looking like a two-way race here between All Quiet on the Western Front and Elvis. All Quiet on the Western Front, you know, won the BAFTA. Elvis, I think its only win, maybe it's gotten a couple others, but I think its only win is the American Society of Cinematographers, the ASC. There is kind of the cool narrative here of Mandy Walker. If she wins, she will be the first female cinematographer to win in kind of a shocking and horrifying stat. I think she is just the 4th ever woman to just ever be nominated in this category. So it would be a historic and a cool moment for her if she did win. Ultimately, I think Elvis is going to be the runner-up. I'm going to predict All Quiet on the Western Front. It does have a lot of stunning cinematography, a lot of moments of kind of the gunfire and the smoke and, you know, explosives in the air that kind of like taint the view of the, you know, the camera, and it kind of creates that really smoky cinematography that looks really well. There's a couple nighttime scenes of fireworks and things like that just look really good. So I think that would be my vote, and it's my prediction for cinematography, although there's always just the teeniest bit of don't count out Roger Deakins, just because he's in the category for Empire of Light, but I don't think I don't think that's gonna win. All right, so next up we're gonna go to editing, And the nominees here are The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Tar, and Top Gun Maverick. Now, in this category, I think it's interesting that I think for the longest time, I think a lot of people were predicting Top Gun Maverick as kind of the best editing feat and what would ultimately win. But there has just been a really strong surge in a lot of the critics groups and precursors and stuff like that where Everything Everywhere All at Once has just kind of been taking it. And even despite it taking everything, I think I was still leaning toward Top Gun Maverick until the BAFTAs. Once the BAFTA awarded editing to Everything Everywhere All at Once, the film that they clearly didn't like, it was the only win that Everything Everywhere got at the BAFTAs. Once they did that, I think that solidified it for me that A, that's my pick, B, that's my prediction. Gonna go with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I do think Top Gun Maverick is still the runner-up in the category, though. So now going to the kind of above the line categories, we're going to go to Screenplay. We'll start off with Adapted Screenplay. The nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, Living, Top Gun Maverick, and Women Talking. In this, I think ultimately it's a two-way race. Women Talking has the Critics' Choice and the WGA, whereas All Quiet on the Western Front just kind of has the BAFTA. But I do think that those are your two films going to head-to-head. It's the two Best Picture. I guess Top Gun Maverick is also Best Picture nominee, but these two are Best Picture nominees that are the perceived frontrunners in the category going head-to-head. I think in this case, I'm going to lean towards Sarah Polley and Women Talking. Not that I think that, clearly they only gave it 2 nominations, so clearly the Academy didn't love the film as much as I and other people have enjoyed Women Talking. So it's not like I think that they feel like they have to award it, but I do think Sarah Polley has been great all Oscar season. She's been very entertaining in campaigning her film, and I do think that this is going to be a way that I think the Academy will want to honor her in her film. So this ultimately, I think this could go either way. I won't be shocked, but my pick and my prediction is Women Talking, and then I think the runner-up in the category is All Quiet on the Western Front. So then if we go to original screenplay, the nominees are The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, and Triangle of Sadness. Now this is also just it's a two-way race between The Banshees of Inisherin and Everything Everywhere All at Once. The Banshees has won the BAFTA and the Golden Globe, and then Everything Everywhere All at Once won the Critics' Choice and the WGA. Ultimately, this is another one of those that I think is kind of a toss-up. This is also one of those instances where you have to decide, does the Academy want to make sure that Banshees gets something? Because this is one of the 2 places that I think they can kind of award Banshees. But ultimately, I think they are going to... The original screenplay winners over the past however many years, they do like to pick those films like Promising Young Woman, Get Out, like the films that are kind of more out there, like the more unique scripts, that because I think there is something special about when you can create that unique of a script and have it work in the overall framework of the film very well. And I do think that's what the Academy likes to award. So I am still going to predict Everything Everywhere All at Once in this category, and it would be my personal choice, but I do think that The Banshees of Inisherin is a great script, and I won't be shocked if it wins, but ultimately I'm just going to pick it as the runner-up. So then we're moving on to the acting categories. We're going to start with the easy one, Best Supporting Actor. And the nominees here are Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for The Fabelmans, Barry Keoghan for The Banshees of Inisherin, and Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And this is an easy Ke Huy Quan. Barry Keoghan did have that kind of surprise win at the BAFTA, but I don't think that's going to have any correlation. So I think this is the easiest. The acting categories are going to be the biggest kind of like up in the air categories, I think, all night. But I think this one's very easy. Ke Huy Quan is my pick. He is my prediction. And as far as a runner-up, you could go Barry Keoghan, but I think I'm gonna go with Brendan Gleeson. I think is kind of just the more veteran. I think he'll probably still get more votes ultimately from the Academy. But it also doesn't really matter because this is just Ke Huy Quan's. It's like he's gonna win. So, moving on to supporting actress. This one is this one's wild. We've got Angela Bassett for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Hong Chow for The Whale, Kerry Condon for The Banshees of Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis from Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Stephanie Hsu for Everything Everywhere All at Once. This category, Kerry Condon won the BAFTA, Jamie Lee Curtis won the SAG, and then Angela Bassett won Critics' Choice in the Golden Globe. I think it could be any one of them. It's a toss-up. It's a three-way race. Just pick one of them. Ultimately, I think I'm going to go with Kerry Condon in this category. I do think the narrative of the BAFTA is a very... they've been pretty good at predicting acting winners over the last however many years, so I do think Kerry Condon it's going to be my pick. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about whichever one of these I picked, but ultimately I'm going to go with Kerry Condon. The runner-up I think is... Runner-up is probably Jamie Lee Curtis. That SAG win was the actors are such a big part of the voting body of the Academy that I think they'll propel her to probably the runner-up status. But my personal vote in the category would have gone to Stephanie Hsu. I do understand why Jamie Lee Curtis was kind of, obviously because she was campaigning a lot for herself, but I do kind of get why the general consensus in the voting body kind of got more behind her, being the veteran, the legendary actress in the industry. I do understand why she kind of leapfrogged Stephanie Hsu, but I prefer her performance in the film. Moving on to actress. Just all the top, these three acting categories are all so tough. The nominees here are Cate Blanchett for Tar, Ana de Armas for Blonde, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is also just kind of, think, a two-way race between Cate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh. Cate Blanchett has won the BAFTA, the Critics' Choice, and the Golden Globe for drama, and then Michelle Yeoh has won the SAG and the Golden Globe for comedy. Ultimately, I think this is kind of a head versus heart discussion. I do personally still feel like it's probably going to be Cate Blanchett. I have that feeling that that's what it feels like. But ultimately, I'm going to predict Michelle Yeoh. It's kind of one of those things where it's just, you have to kind of... So many times in the years past, the Parasite year, that was my favorite film of the year, and I was caught up in the movement, but I just didn't end up predicting it for a lot, as many Oscars as it won. I didn't predict it in director or picture because I was just... I just didn't get all the way swept into it as much as I am with the wave of Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm getting swept in. I'm getting caught in it. I'm gonna go with Michelle Yeoh as my prediction. I don't feel great about it, but that's my prediction. It would be my pick, and of course that's gonna make Cate Blanchett the runner-up in the category. But again, I don't feel great. Actor in a leading role. The nominees here are Austin Butler for Elvis, Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Paul Mescal for Aftersun, and Bill Nighy for Living. I love all five of these performances. They're all great. This is probably one of the strongest categories for me. Ultimately, I think this is a three-way race between Butler, Farrell, and Fraser. Colin Farrell only won the Golden Globe as far as like precursors when he won the Golden Globe for comedy. But he does lead in I think he has the most total awards this season because of the critics groups and other kind of the smaller, not the main precursors, but some of those smaller voting bodies that he's been winning a lot of their awards. But this is, for the Oscar, it's kind of a two-way race, I guess, between Brendan Fraser and Austin Butler. Brendan Fraser won, the Critics' Choice and the SAG, where Butler won the BAFTA and the Golden Globe. Ultimately, my pick in the category would be Brendan Fraser, but I'm going to predict Austin Butler. There is just such a strong stat of actors in a Best Picture nominee. Those are the ones that typically win. as well as every single year, at least one of the four categories typically goes to someone who's playing a real person. So I just think you put those two together, it's going to tip me more toward Austin Butler in the category for his portrayal of Elvis Presley. But I wouldn't be shocked if Brendan Fraser won. It's a very close race. So my personal pick and the runner-up would be Brendan Fraser, but my prediction is going to be Austin Butler. Now moving on to Best Director. The nominees are Martin McDonagh for The Banshees of Inisherin, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans, Todd Field for Tar, and Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. It's the Daniels. It's kind of been over for a long time. They have won pretty much everything. They've won all the kind of the critics groups and precursors. I guess other than, BAFTA that went to Edward Berger, who isn't nominated here, so I'm not that concerned about what the BAFTAs did by not awarding the Daniels, I just think ultimately I think a lot of people still struggle with kind of how out there and unique of a pick this is for the film, especially when you're in the same category as legend like Steven Spielberg. But I just think that this is one of those categories that has been swept up in the love of everything, the wave of love for Everything Everywhere All at Once. The Daniels are what makes this film work, ultimately. It was their vision, their film. So I think this is chalk up another win for Everything Everywhere here. And then that leads us beautifully into Best Picture. And the nominees in this category are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. And we're just continuing the sweep. We're continuing the love for Everything Everywhere All at Once in this category. It has won pretty much just about everything. Obviously, All Quiet on the Western Front won the BAFTA, and then The Fabelmans, actually, if you remember, won the Golden Globe. But since then, Critics' Choice, SAG, PGA, DGA, WGA, so many different critics groups. Everything has been going to Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's just the film that has the momentum. It's the film that's had the momentum the entire season. And I fully expected to carry on. Like, the only thing that I think a lot of people were, the two films that people were kind of constantly discussing was Top Gun Maverick and All Quiet on the Western Front. Top Gun Maverick because people just thought that, obviously, I mean, it does, I'm not saying it doesn't, but people thought that the love that people had for that film was just going to carry it into an upset win in Best Picture. And I think a lot of people thought that the film would do very well on a preferential ballot, yet I believe it's the PGA that is the other awards body that has the preferential ballot, and it didn't win. It still went to Everything Everywhere. So I don't think Top Gun has a chance anymore. The Banshees of Inisherin couldn't win the BAFTA, so it doesn't really have a chance anymore. The Fabelmans has been dead since Globe, so it doesn't have a chance. So that's where I think a lot of people have kind of been gravitating towards All Quiet on the Western Front as kind of the potential number 2 in the category, just because it was such a late-breaking film that we haven't really seen it compete with Everything Everywhere All at Once all that much. But ultimately, I don't think that it's amazing success that it had at BAFTA. I think is going to translate in some categories over to the Oscars. I just don't know if it's going to translate for Best Picture. I think the Academy loves Everything Everywhere. They are embracing the film. And ultimately, that's my prediction. It's my pick. I do think the runner-up in that category is All Quiet on the Western Front, though. So, final tally. I think it's kind of interesting the way that it kind of stacked out for me this year with I'm predicting Everything Everywhere All at Once to win 6 Oscars for Picture, Actress, Supporting Actor, Screenplay, Director, and Editing. I'm predicting All Quiet on the Western Front to win 3 Oscars for International Film, Cinematography, and Score. I'm predicting Elvis to win 3 Oscars for Actor, Makeup, and Costume. And those are the only 3 films that I'm predicting to win multiple Oscars. From there on out, I have 1 Oscar for The Banshees of Inisherin for Supporting Actress, 1 Oscar for Women Talking for Adapted Screenplay, 1 Oscar for Babylon for Production Design, 1 Oscar for Avatar: The Way of Water for Visual Effects, 1 Oscar for Top Gun Maverick for Sound, 1 Oscar for RRR for Original Song, 1 Oscar to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio for Animated Feature, 1 Oscar for Navalny for Best Documentary Feature, 1 Oscar for Stranger at the Gate for Documentary Short, 1 Oscar for The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, the Horse for Animated Short, and 1 Oscar for An Irish Goodbye for Best Live Action Short. So, yeah, that's how I have it all playing out. I do apologize. I realize I've been going on for just about an hour now, just kind of rambling about all of these. But I did want to make it a point to make sure I got my predictions out there, and hopefully maybe share a little bit of an insight in terms of, since I have seen every single nominee, I did want to kind of just put my 2 cents in there, just make my predictions, what I think is going to win, and yeah, ultimately that is it. That's gonna do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed, if you were able to manage to make it through all 46 plus minutes of how long I've been rambling, but thank you for watching if you did. Hope you guys have a great Oscars watch party, if that's what you do. Just hope you have a great Oscar Sunday. Hope all of the films you're rooting for win, as long as you are rooting for Everything Everywhere in a lot of categories, and hope you guys just have great Oscar Sunday, and see you guys in the next video.